Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. I am very glad to be talking about this one too. Preview embargo for Sakuna of Rice and Rain has lifted, and I don't think I can enthuse enough about this game. It is without a doubt one of my favourite titles of the year, and this is only in preview stage. You can check out my full written thoughts on digitallydownloaded.net. I've got some there as well, but I want to use this video to talk about one specific element which we will get into. I wasn't quite sure what to expect from this game. From the previews, it looked like it was going to be a fairly simple platformer, and I assumed that the rice mechanics that were touted in the various marketing materials would be fairly arbitrary and a simple thing that was thrown in there to give the game a point of difference. And I was very wrong about that. So very wrong. The rice bit is actually what makes Sakuna the distinctive, interesting, deeply appealing game that it is. And that's just in the first couple of chapters that I've played so far. There is still plenty more about this system that I'm sure I'm going to learn in the weeks ahead. The platform in itself is functional and works just fine. I will talk about that in my written preview, but I'm going to use this video to talk about the rice. So, as an Australian, I never really thought that rice could be so core to a culture, but it really is all of that to the Japanese and then some. It is an aesthetic that we have all come to love about Japan. The image of those beautiful rice fields cut into the mountains is iconically Japanese, and just about anybody that spends time in the country just has to get a photo of that, me included. I've got lots. And also, one of my favorite stories about Japanese rice came from the year 1994, where there was significant shortages of Japanese rice in the country, and even though they weren't starving, they were importing rice from places like China and Thailand, the Japanese were just not happy about this at all. In fact, anger over shortages got so bad that the emperor himself had to come out and announce to the nation that he was going to start eating imported rice, which calmed things down a bit. And then some of the most popular television shows became guides on how to cook foreign rice so that it almost tastes Japanese. It is the country is just very proud of their rice, and that's kind of an appealing story from 1994. And I've got to say, as somebody who now pays a small fortune for my rice because my Japanese wife likes her rice to be imported from home, there is a difference between the taste in Japanese rice and the cheap bags of whatever you buy from supermarkets. Now, whether that is worth the premium or not depends on who you are, I guess. But at this point, I'm digressing pretty heavily. The point is, Japanese rice is very important to the Japanese people, and Sakuna really does go all in with that idea. So, the careful attention to detail and care that you need to put into the crops, the rice crops that you grow, results in better rice in Sakuna. Rice fit for gods, because you're literally playing as a god character, and that is also something very important to the game. I'm not far enough into the whole spiritual angle at this stage to have thoughts about that. You'll probably need to wait till my full review for that. But point is, the idea is there is that kind of relationship between the divine and rice in this game. To grow good rice, you've got to be very disciplined. You've got to sow the seeds just right and make sure that there isn't too much or too little distance between them. Then you've got to flood the plot of land with water to make sure that the water levels remain good to enable the rice to grow. And you would see that if you spend time in Japan, when they first plant the rice, they do flood it with water, and that is something you need to do in this game as well. Then you've got to create a blend of fertilizer using material from the outhouse, along with various nutrients that you pick up while doing the 2D platforming stuff. Then you've got to make sure that weeds don't overtake the rice plants and reduce the quality of the rice that's produced. Then you've got to dry the rice before moving it to a storeroom and removing the grains of rice from the plants manually. Finally, you've got to pound the rice to remove the husks, and then if you've done all of that just right, you end up with a crop of delicious rice to eat and sustain your small group of people while they live on this island. And then you need to start preparing the land, for the next crop of rice. And so just how all of this ties into the overall narrative, I'm still not 100% sure, but I am enjoying the process of following along with this kind of growth and regrowth of rice every, a seasonal process of preparing the land, planting the rice, growing the rice, and then harvesting it. This is all it's a process which is very, very appealing, and it's done in a very appealing way. If you came into this game expecting Harvest Moon or even a farming simulator game, you're going to be quite surprised. Sakuna goes well beyond those and makes rice management and plot land management laborious, to the point that you'll almost find yourself simply unable to go out and do the platforming stuff for quite a while at a time in game. Every action is linked to a series of gameplay mechanics, and at each point in the process you can really damage your rice crop if you fail to do a good job. Any mistakes, you end up, it costs you in terms of the quality of the rice that you produce. This game makes you really understand just how much discipline goes into rice farming, and perhaps my favorite thing about it all, and it's going to sound very kind of subtle, but the game almost resists showing you the labours of your work. You can pull up sheets of data on the performance of your rice farming, and you can see the level of your crop and all of that kind of information, and that's important to do, but that's like the simulation side of things, and it gets really hardcore with that. But there is no Final Fantasy 15 like kind of picture of a gorgeous bowl of rice just waiting for you at the end of the process. You don't get that kind of food porn image that some other games try to do with when they engage with food as a topic. And I do suspect that absence might draw some criticism here. Some critics might wonder whether there is a reward to the process at all, whether it feels like you're actually getting rewarded for all the work that you put into growing this rice. But I believe there's something more spiritually Japanese to this gameplay system. There's the idea that it's the discipline and the process where you find the reward in growing rice, not the point where you consume the results. It's about living with the land and working with the land and coming to an understanding with the land rather than exploiting it. And we all know that the Japanese have a very special relationship to their country and their land, historically through the volcanoes, earthquakes and tsunamis, and the fact that it is a very ancient culture on a very ancient bit of land. The Japanese have been through a lot with their country and their land, and their traditional religion, Shinto, is very deeply respectful of the land and its value as a result. As a staple that has kept the Japanese fed and even wealthy, because at one point rice was used as a form of currency in Japan, the fact that this game puts emphasis on the creation of rice is some very deep, emergent storytelling, and Sakuna is one of the most powerful artifacts specifically designed to reflect something about Japanese heritage and culture that we have seen for quite some time. And on a very simple level, it feels just plain good to mess around in that field of rice. The gameplay rhythms of Sakuna are the right kind of repetition, and I am weirdly obsessed with creating the perfect field of rice in this game. It's also the most gorgeous part of the game, so the 2D platforming stuff, being relatively functional in design, it doesn't have the same kind of gorgeous beauty of, say, a Vanillaware 2D game, but the 3D bit where you get to putter around in the field and you do so with the thatched roof, storeroom and residents watching over you as a reflection of the sun glistens off the water that you've just poured into the plot of land. I don't think there's a more beautifully true take on the aesthetics of rural Japan than that in any game that I've actually played. This game really goes all in with making that little bit of 3D space just absolutely beautiful in the aesthetics. So it's a couple more weeks before I can share my full thoughts of Sakuna via review, but if you have any interest in Japanese culture or storytelling, then this game right here is the one that you absolutely need to go out and pre-order right now. 2020 has been a very odd year in general, but there's this wonderful little bookending that's happened in terms of video games. Right at the start of the year, we got Katana Kami, and now we're getting this. Those two games that bookend this otherwise pretty terrible year have been truly memorable special experiences, and they have been those kind of memorable special experiences that I won't forget for many years to come, because they are so cultural to Japan, and that makes them pretty special. So definitely look forward to my full review of this game. I promise you I am going to be playing this a lot, and we'll have some very deep thoughts about it come review time. Anyhow, that's enough for this video. Thank you very much for tuning in as always. If you like my videos, please do like and subscribe, etc, etc. You do so, you won't miss any, and I do publish a lot of videos, so yeah. Otherwise, if you do enjoy my videos, please do consider throwing me $1 a month on Patreon. That contribution and support will help me to continue to grow this channel and do more interesting things and continue to find interesting games to talk about. Otherwise, have a great week. We will be back, no doubt, with another video nice and soon, and look forward to that. I'm not sure what it'll be at this stage, but there's been a lot of games to play. So, yeah, we'll see you soon. Have a good week, everyone.